Okay, just think about this for a second. How do you pull off one of the biggest financial heists in history? We're not talking masks and guns. We're talking about an idea, a microphone, and some serious charisma. You get millions of people all over the world to give you their savings. You rack up a cool $4 billion, and then, just as it feels like the whole world is about to catch you, you hop on a commercial flight and you just disappear. Gone. Sounds like a movie, right? Well, it's not. It's a true story, and it all boils down to that one single unbelievable question.
And this is where things get really wild. Her face is now on one of the most famous, or maybe I should say infamous, lists in the entire world. The FBI's 10 most wanted. She's up there with cartel kingpins and terrorists. But here's the kicker. She's not wanted for violence. She's the Crypto Queen, wanted for masterminding a financial scam so huge it's almost hard to wrap your head around. $4 billion. So let's pull back the curtain. We're going to dive deep into the anatomy of this global fraud. We'll follow the insane story of a high-stakes international manhunt. And we're going to try to figure out the mystery of the woman who, for a little while there, had the entire world eating out of the palm of her hand.
To really understand the hunt, you first have to understand the crime. And to get the crime, you got to understand the vanishing act itself. It's a story that kicks off with this massive promise of a financial revolution and ends with a ghost.
$4 billion. Just let that number sink in. And that's probably a low estimate of how much cash poured into her project from people all across the globe. We're talking about folks from pretty much every country, all walks of life, who bought into her vision. This was no small-time operation. It was a financial juggernaut built on a lie.
And believe me, the sheer scale of this thing was not lost on anybody. Once the dust started to settle, major outlets like The Times, well, they didn't hold back. Calling it one of the biggest scams in history isn't just flashy journalism, it's the truth. We're talking about Bernie Madoff level stuff here. So, how in the world did she pull it off?
It all started with a promise, an incredibly powerful idea that tapped right into what everyone was thinking about and hoping for in the economy. And man, was it seductive. So, picture this. It's 2014. The world is going crazy for Bitcoin. You hear these stories of early investors becoming millionaires overnight. It's exciting, but let's be honest, it's also super complicated for the average person. So into this confusing new world steps Dr. Ruja Ignatova. She's got the charisma, the fancy Oxford education, and a killer pitch for something she called OneCoin. It was going to be the Bitcoin killer. Simpler, safer, and way more profitable than anything you'd ever seen.
And this is the genius of how they hooked people. It was so simple. Look at this. You didn't just buy the coin. No. First, you bought an educational package, which is a brilliant little psychological trick right there. That package gave you tokens. Then you'd use those tokens to mine for your OneCoin. And the final step, that was the dream they were selling. Get in on the ground floor of the next Bitcoin. Who could say no to that?
But here's the thing. Behind all this slick PowerPoints and the cheering crowds, the reality was, well, it was nothing. There was no revolutionary crypto. OneCoin wasn't on a blockchain. It was just a number typed into a database on a server they controlled. That whole mining thing, totally fake. They just made up the numbers. And it absolutely was not the next Bitcoin. It was just a good old-fashioned Ponzi scheme with a fancy new digital costume. Now, for a few years, the illusion actually worked. On their private website, the value of OneCoin just kept climbing. Investors were checking their accounts, seeing these huge numbers, and telling all their friends and family to get in. But you can only keep an illusion going for so long. And the first real sign that the whole thing was about to come crashing down came when the only way to get your money out was suddenly slammed shut.
And as you can see here, the authorities were starting to figure it out. This was a global chase. As early as 2015, you had warnings coming out of Bulgaria. By 2016, alarms were ringing all over Europe. Italy flat out called it an illegal pyramid scheme. But for the investors, the real moment of doom was January 2017. That internal exchange, the only place they could ever cash out, was shut down. The excuse? Maintenance. It never, ever came back online.
And that was it. That was the moment the music stopped. You have millions of people who thought they were rich, that they were sitting on a digital gold mine, and they suddenly realized their money was completely trapped. The numbers on the screen meant nothing. Life savings, retirement funds, poof, gone. The panic was setting in, but the people at the top were already way ahead of them.
So, how do you even run a scam this massive? It takes a lot more than just one charismatic person.
You need a well-oiled machine, a network of loyal partners in crime, and a really complex system for making billions of dollars just disappear.
So what exactly was this thing? It was kind of a hybrid monster. It was part Ponzi scheme, using money from new investors to pay out the very first ones, which makes it look profitable. And it was part pyramid scheme, because the real way you made money was by signing up other people. Those educational packages were just the cover. The real product they were selling was the chance to recruit your friends.
And Dr. Ruja was not flying solo, not by a long shot. She had an inner circle that kept the machine running. Her co-founder, Sebastian Greenwood, he was the main promoter. He's now doing 20 years. Mark Scott, a big-shot American lawyer, laundered a mind-blowing $400 million. He got 10 years. Even her ex-boyfriend got in on it, laundering $300 million for a 5-year sentence. And you gotta love the irony here. The head of legal and compliance, Irina Dilkinsa, she got 4 years for her part. So the crew has been taken down. But the queen is still out there.
So while her accomplices were getting rounded up one by one, the US justice system was building this massive case against the queen herself. This is the federal indictment, and it is absolutely damning. It spells out the charges in black and white: wire fraud, money laundering, securities fraud. The document basically says that from day one, this was a deliberate criminal plan to defraud people by lying to them. This wasn't a business that just failed. Prosecutors argue it was designed to be a crime from the very beginning.
Which brings us right back to today. The empire is in ruins. Her top people are in prison, the money has vanished, but there's still this one giant gaping hole in the middle of the story. The international hunt for Dr. Ruja Ignatova is one of the biggest, most fascinating manhunts happening right now.
And if you had any doubt about how serious they are about finding her, just look at this. The U.S. State Department is offering a reward of up to $5 million for information that leads to her arrest. That is a ton of money. That's the kind of reward you see for the absolute most wanted fugitives on the planet. Somebody, somewhere, knows something.
And this right here is the last solid piece of evidence anyone has. October 25th, 2017. This was just 2 weeks after a secret U.S. warrant was issued for her arrest. Dr. Ruja boarded a totally normal Ryanair flight from Sofia, Bulgaria to Athens, Greece. She went through security, got on the plane, and landed. And then, she walked out of that airport and straight into thin air.
And when you have a total lack of facts, the theories just explode. Is she sipping champagne on a super yacht somewhere in the Mediterranean? The FBI thinks she may have had extensive plastic surgery to completely change her face. There are whispers she's been spotted using different passports. But then there's a much darker theory. What if the same criminal organizations that helped her hide the money decided she was just too much of a risk and got rid of her permanently?
So that leaves us with the $4 billion question. Is she some kind of criminal mastermind, living the high life on her stolen cash in some secret hideaway? Or is she a ghost, taken out by the very underworld that helped her build her empire? The hunt is still on. The reward is out there, and the world is watching. So I'll just ask you, what do you think happened to the Crypto Queen?